Well, I just thought I'd talk about Game of Thrones season 4 as a whole. I mean, after the entire season has had a while to sit with me, I just thought, well, I might as well talk about it because talking about individual episodes is a little hard to grasp, or it's a little hard to properly sum up how how I feel about each event leading into another, and there's only so much you can talk about in a single episode or in a single video without completely going completely off topic. I mean, when I make these episodic vlogs, I'm talking about those specific episodes, or at least I try to. So, so in talking about Game of Thrones season 4, I'm going to try and talk about the overarching story of this season, and to a lesser extent last season, because from what I understand, this was yet another split in terms of adapting a book. I mean, you know how a lot of movies are doing that nowadays. You know, Harry Potter, Twilight, The Hobbit, uh, Hunger Games, Divergent. So, so they have now done it on Game of Thrones because they split the third book, if I'm not mistaken, A Storm of Swords, into seasons 3 and 4 of the show. I mean, the previous two seasons have been roughly one book per season. So so structurally, this was going to be a little bit more difficult to pull off. Now, you could argue that this was done for money-making reasons. You know, they could exploit the material for all it's worth. I mean, they can get twice the ratings that they would normally get for adapting a book to the screen. But I think some of it does have to do with the fact that they are slowly but surely approaching the latest book, and George R. R. Martin is not exactly no, there's no exactly, but he's not done writing the series yet. So the creators of the show have gone on record as saying, yes, we know, we're still exploring options, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I promised I wouldn't get off topic in this video, but Game of Thrones season 4. Honestly, I've heard some people call it the best season, and I do kind of see where they're coming from, especially since that some of the biggest standout moments have come from this season. Just to name a few examples, Arya leaving the Hound, or any scenes with Arya and the Hound, really. Tyrion killing Tywin and Shay, Joffrey's death, the battle of the Wall. Moments like that are really what caused this season to stand out. I mean, each season of Game of Thrones has at least one moment that stands out that you remember the entire season for. And again, at least one. In some cases there are many. But season 1, it was the beheading of Ned Stark. Season 2, it was the Battle of Blackwater. Season 3, it was the Red Wedding. Robb Stark's death. Season 4, it was like I said, death of Joffrey, Battle of the Wall, death of Tywin and Shay. So yeah, season 4. Honestly, I don't really think either one of the two recent seasons worked as well, at least in terms of narrative seasonal arcs, as well as seasons 1 and 2. Because seasons 1 and 2, yeah, you could definitely tell that you were watching a fairly self-contained story. You could tell that one book was roughly being assigned to one season. Here the season 3, at least if you look at it compared to season 4, does kind of feel like half of a story. Yeah, obviously they took certain liberties, and obviously it does have a beginning, middle, and end. But if we're just talking about looking at these events on a larger scale, a lot of arcs did really seem to conclude that were initially started in season 3. Like Theon Greyjoy, the character of Theon Greyjoy, how he was tormented and tortured to the point where he eventually broke and turned into, or at least mentally, he turned into the character of Reek. So that was begun in season 3, and it came full circle or it appeared to come full circle in season 4. We really got to see the character of Reek, and how there's, or at least on the surface, no sign of Theon in there. I mean, he was broken. Um, and also the eventual dissolving of the North into whoever into the hands of whoever helps the Lannisters. You know, like the Boltons, Roose Bolton. He betrayed Robb Stark partially so that he could get the North. Okay, well, we didn't actually get to see him take the North, or we didn't actually get to see him make a move against the North until season 4. You know, when he assigned Ramsay to negotiate with the Greyjoys via Reek. So yeah, season 3 did feel like the first half of a story, and season 4 did feel like the second half. But to be fair, it was a lot harder to detect than it was with something like Twilight or Harry Potter, because you know the writers of this show do have a sense of, or at least on television, do have a sense of beginning, middle, end, and where the climax should be, etc., etc. So yeah, they did their best, but I'm not saying that these 2 seasons were bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's just you know, 1 and 2 felt like more of a complete story. But what else did I like about this season? Well, again, this is going to seem like well-tread territory at this point, but I like the fact that a lot of the things about the status quo are going to change. You know, Tyrion, he can't go back to King's Landing at this point. Not only is he accused of murdering the previous king, but he has also killed his whore and his dad, who was the Hand of the King. So not only is King's Landing going to erupt in chaos without the Hand of the King, and actually losing allies, but Tyrion, my guess is he's probably going to go across the sea to maybe join up with Daenerys. I don't know what he's going to do, and this just real quick. This is also going to be somewhat of a predictions video. You know, what I think will happen in season 5. But you know, King's Landing was really a mean-spirited place this season, more so than it has ever been, and that's one thing that I actually think that season 4 can really embrace as its own unique narrative decision, making King's Landing this very unfriendly place. In a lot of ways, it's somewhat of a polar opposite. I need to adjust the screen. In a lot of ways, it's somewhat of a polar opposite, or at least in Tyrion's eyes, to the way it was in season 2. Because season 2, Tyrion was basically at the top of the world. He was the Hand of the King. He was flushing out traitors. Everything was going great for him, and now he's in jail. He is oppressed by his own family. He is sentenced to death. He loses his girlfriend / whore. He has to kill his dad, and I'm not going to say he chose to kill. He had to kill his dad. What else was he going to do? So yeah, seeing Tyrion in that very different environment was very impactful, given what we've seen him overcome before. Seeing him overcome these obstacles, really getting a clearer picture of the kind of oppression that he's felt his whole life. I mean, yeah, he's been able to use his intelligence to get out of these scrapes before, but we haven't really gotten, or at least in the show, this may have been different in the books, we haven't really gotten a true visual representation of the kind of oppression that he's gone through. Obviously, yeah, they've referred to him as the dwarf, the guy who killed his mother to come into the world, blah 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 blah. The demon monkey. I mean, obviously, we know that a lot of people don't like him, but we haven't really seen him come under the boot of his father, or at least not to the extent that it has this season. We haven't really seen his sister try with all of her power to kill him like she tried to do in this season via execution. We haven't really seen Jaime Lannister go through the type of risks that he goes through to show that he loves his brother, and that has always been one of his redeeming qualities. Even if you absolutely hate Jaime Lannister, you have to admit that he loves his brother. He does, really. And I think that makes him a far more sympathetic character than Lena Headey's character, who we are constantly reminded that yes, she loves her children, but her children aren't here, and that's one of the things that I think prevents Lena Headey's character, has always prevented her character, and especially this season, from ever being as sympathetic as someone like Tyrion or Jaime, because I don't know what it is. Lena Headey just has this very hard look about her. I honestly think if you had gotten an actress with a little bit more range, then you could have made Cersei Lannister every bit as interesting as Jaime or Tyrion. I mean, maybe cast Charlize Theron as Cersei Lannister, because Lena Headey, the lack of screen time that she actually has with her kids, and again, I know you can't really have her interact with her daughter because her daughter has already been shipped off to some other kingdom. But the lack of screen time that she really has to show that she loves her kids, we are constantly told, but we are never really shown. And combined with the fact that Lena Headey, by her very nature, has this very unsympathetic look about her, and the way that she kind of plays it, it prevents Cersei Lannister from being nearly as interesting as her siblings, or even her father, because her father, we are constantly, I mean, we never really have any, there's never really any question of what her father wants, what Tywin wants. I mean, Charles Dance knows this when he plays it. I mean, he wants to further the family name. He doesn't really have any kind of empathy for his family. He doesn't really have any kind of love for his family. All he cares about is furthering the family name by whatever means necessary. So yeah, that when the opportunity was presented to him to sever the weak link, as it were, in the form of Tyrion via execution, then yeah, he took it. And then I remember really liking how he kind of manipulated that situation to try and entice Jaime, or blackmail Jaime, as it were, to come back onto his side and be his family champion, as it were. So yeah, King's Landing is a place of chaos in season 4. Is just a place of great hostilities. Shay, from what I understand, Shay was, or at least from what I've heard from a lot of people who read the books, again, don't quote me on this, but Shay apparently was given a lot more depth and a lot more likability in the show than she was in the books. Now, that being said, how unlikable was she in the books? Good God. I mean, yeah, I don't hate her as much as I hate someone like Bran, or, well, I don't know, Shay, whenever she's on screen, or at least trying to show this very heartbroken hostility towards Tyrion, I never really bought it as much as I think they wanted me to. But if you want my honest opinion on what's going to happen in King's Landing, well, Cersei doesn't really have any obstacles in her way to have full reign over her youngest son as king. So really the only, because her dad is out of the way, so Tyrion might have actually done her a favor in getting her dad out of the way, and her announcement, or at least her announcement that she made to Jaime at the end of season 4 about, I don't care if people know about this incestuous relationship between us. I just want to be together. her basically throwing away her facade like that, or claiming she's going to, just paves the way for all sorts of possibilities. I mean, is there going to be propaganda about her now? Are we going to get to see some of the propaganda? I hope so. Um, I mean, what's going to go around about Jamie? Is this going to affect his decision to stay in the Night's Watch? Probably not. He's probably still going to be a member, unless Lena Headey finds out that he had something to do with Tyrion's escape. In which case, they may become even more estranged, because it's been made very clear from the start of the season that their relationship is not nearly as passionate as it was, given how long he's been gone. So that's one possible road that this series of stories could take. I can only see things going downhill for Daenerys from this point on, because she's lost her closest friend, her best advisor in Jorah, Sir Jorah Mormont. I think that's his name. Ian Glenn's character. So she's lost her advisor, or rather, she kicked her advisor to the curb, despite the fact that she could have given him the benefit of the doubt. After all, he's been with her far longer than Sir Barristan has. So again, I did not really support that decision. I don't think that was one of the best decisions on the part of the writers or George R.R. Martin. That's one area where I actually think they should have diverged from the books. If it was in the books, it could have not been. I don't know. But I can only see things going downhill from here. She is just making stupid decision after stupid decision without really thinking about what it will bring about. Because, like I said, she basically spent the entirety of this, or the first half of this season, kind of claiming lordship over these slave cities and coming as this liberator. And then she spent the second half of the season very predictably coming to understand the unforeseen consequences of supposedly freeing these slaves. I mean, she was living in this kind of storybook idea of, well, if I free these slaves, then everything will be right as rain here. Well, no, because slavery was not awful for everyone. I mean, she robbed a lot of people, like I said, of their livelihood and of their homes. I mean, where are they going to go? I mean, yeah, they have these kind of sanctuary mess hall centers that she mentioned, but that can only get them so far. What are they going to do for work, especially if they have only been trained for slave work? So I can only see things going downhill from here. And given how unlikable that her character can be at times, I can't really see myself getting too invested, or at least not nearly as invested as I was when Sean Bean was captured by the Lannisters in season 1. Granted, George R.R. Martin took my investment and chopped its head off, but it was Sean Bean. I mean, the guy's just become a running punchline in how many times he dies in movies and TV shows. Yeah, things will probably go downhill. I mean, given the fact that she can't control her dragons anymore, given the fact that she's lost her best advisor, given the fact that she is constantly receiving complaints and announcements that not only are the freed slaves not all that satisfied, but also previously liberated cities have been recaptured by the Masters. So yeah, I can only think the ground is shrinking beneath her feet. She really doesn't have much of a solid foundation to stand on anymore. Really, her safest bet would probably be to sail to Westeros and maybe set up a base, or try and set up a base. I don't know, but I don't think she's going to do that, especially given how much she has put into the slave trade or the slave liberation. But yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed this season was was the stuff north of the Wall. In fact, I think this season provided the most interesting look at the stuff north of the Wall. You know, with Jon Snow and the Wildlings and the Night's Watch and whatever. Because given the Battle of the Wall, we've gotten a clearer picture of what these Wildlings can do, what kind of resources and creatures that they have at their disposal. And then immediately we are also introduced to the idea of Stannis Baratheon coming north of the Wall, having renewed his own resources after his defeat at the Battle of Blackwater. You know, what's he going to do up there? Well, maybe he will covertly try to stage some guerrilla warfare toward the denizens of Westeros below the Wall. Maybe he might try to recruit some of the wildlings. I don't know what he's going to do with Mance, their leader. I don't know what he's going to do with the Night's Watch. Maybe he will give some of them an opportunity to join his army. Not that there's really a whole lot of them left, or at least Night's Watch members. There's not really a whole lot of them left to join. But Jon Snow, it's very clear that he's not satisfied with Stannis basically taking over the Castle Black as his own private base. This is going to make me out to be very ignorant, but I actually forget why Stannis is doing this in the first place. Wait, no, I remember. It's because Melisandre, the red-haired chick, she told him that the real threat is up north. So whether or not he will interact with Bran Stark at some point, because Bran Stark is also very north of the Wall, embracing his spirit quest, his very, very boring spirit quest. You know, with the forest sprites or whatever. I don't know what they are. I don't know if they will come into contact at some point. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, because the North has been shown to be pretty big, very, very sizable. So their paths may not cross after all. But Stannis is bound to have at least some sort of conflict with Jon Snow and or the Night's Watch as a whole, because he did just kind of waltz in and take over. So there are bound to be some people who take issue with that. Now, I hope that Jon Snow is not going to die, but we'll see what happens. Because, like I said, he's one of the last really likable characters on the show. I mean, obviously I like Tyrion, I like Jaime, but Jon Snow is really the only one. He's one of the guys with the cleanest sense of morality at this point. I mean, yeah, he's obviously made mistakes, but he knows their mistakes. He feels tremendous regret for them. He really does take after his dad in terms of having a sense of honor and whatnot. So yeah, I'm still very interested in what's going to happen with Jon Snow and the Wall. I mean, will the Wildlings still be a threat? Were they sanctioned with just one fell swoop? I highly doubt it, especially given the fact that their leader was captured, although Mance has said that he doesn't really want any more blood spilt. Like I said, it was left kind of vague as to what will happen there, but Arya, one of the most loved characters on the show, she is now going to study in Braavos, which, if you remember, or if I'm remembering correctly, is the home of her first sword master, Syrio, that was it. In season 1, he first taught her how to use a sword, so maybe she'll get to learn from the masters, I don't know. But she is becoming just more and more cold-hearted, and it feels earned. I mean, she's been out on the road. She's seen the way things are. She's had a variety of mentors at this point. You know, Syrio. She's had the assassin from season 2. She's had the Hound in season 2 and 3. That's another plot line that kind of indicated, or that kind of gives away the fact that this was all meant to be viewed as one story. Is the Hound plot and Arya's interaction with the Hound finally came to a close at the end of this season. where it was just kind of left hanging in the air at the end of season 3. So yeah, I don't mean to harp on that point. But Arya, is she going to become even more deadly? Probably. Because obviously she likes killing. She takes pleasure in it. She's everyone's favorite little sociopath, honestly. And giving her more of a sense of expertise in the area of sword play. I don't know if she's going to embrace the more graceful water dance type move set, or if she's going to be an all out brawler like the Hound. Because, like I said, the Hound really showed her that in certain scenarios, being a brawler helps. Being dishonorable in a fight helps. She's Granted, she's not really in any position to use her size to overcome her opponents, or at least not at this point in her lifetime. But that can very well be subject to change. If they do a time skip, I hope they don't do a time skip. But she is out on her own right now. She is completely without any of her peers. She is completely without a mentor at this point. So yeah, I think she can take care of herself. Or at least given what we've seen so far, yeah, there are many people who are stronger and more adept than her at combat, but she has shown herself to be completely without mercy. She has shown herself not to be trifled with, or at least not if you put a sword in her hand. So yeah, given the fact that she is now going off to train, to further her training, I mean, is this going to turn into Assassin's Tween? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, she continues to be one of the most interesting characters on the show, one of the most enjoyable, and hopefully that will continue with what is presumably going to be her training in season 5. And another thing that we really got to see in this season was Sansa finally taking some initiative, and finally starting to trust Littlefinger. Now, granted, and that's another character who's gotten more interesting, is Littlefinger. Because like I said, I did not care about him at all when the show first started out. Well, the way that Sansa and Littlefinger are finally getting some initiative, getting some position of power, yeah, you could argue that in this world, no one is safe. I mean, honestly, how long do you think that they will stay safe? But the fact that they have put them in a position of power, and coming off of a season which, kudos to the writers for laying the groundwork to potentially make Sansa and Littlefinger actually interesting, or at least more interesting than they were, which to me was not very. So the same cannot be said for Bran. I mean, obviously, you've heard me toot my horn about a lot of issues that I have with the show, with Bran being at the forefront. And it's safe to say that I do not care about Bran's spirit quest. I don't think they're going to kill him off, especially considering the what they have basically said he is going to be able to do, giving him these kind of magical abilities. So on one hand, you could make the argument that maybe he'll be more interesting. Maybe this will provide him with some new material because, like I said, they say he's going to be able to fly, so he may not have to deal with cripple issues anymore. But at the same time, you run the risk of unintentional hilarity if you introduce something too otherworldly, too out there. If you do something that completely clashes with the more realistic tone that this show is trying so desperately to set. Because obviously they've had trolls and dragons and giants, or not trolls, I get the two mixed up. Giants, dragons, cannibalism, magic. Obviously they've had things like those, but they've always kept a leash on them, both literally and in terms of the script. I mean, they've always kind of reined them back to where they're not too intrusive on the more gritty, realistic side of things. So if they introduce something that is too that is too supernatural when it comes to Bran's story arc next season. You could run the risk of killing whatever serious tone that you were going for, and like I said, descend into unintentional hilarity. Because flying, if you don't do it right, it could seem a little too whimsical for what this show has been trying to do. So yeah, overall, season 4 it was a good continuation of the story. As a self-contained story, it doesn't really work as well as the first 2 seasons. I might be in a minority on that. I might not, but rest assured, if you're looking for the quality standard of Game of Thrones, you will find that in season 4, and hopefully they have laid the groundwork for some more interesting stories, some more different scenarios for these characters. And I look forward to hearing you guys' opinion. Please do not dislike this video solely because you disagree with me or solely because you think that I just don't get something. Feel free to comment. Feel free to share your own opinions with me. I mean, as long as it's not a major spoiler of something that is supposed to be a plot twist, then yeah, by all means. But if I wanted to hear spoilers, I would go to one of the numerous Game of Thrones wikis out there. So yeah, that's about all I got.